Chapter 5, Part 1 of French for Reading. Let's start off with looking at La Lampe de la Meute. That was what you translated about last week. So here's some pictures to show that it's a real thing. And here's La Crotte de la Meute. La Meute is a town, and La Crotte is the cave there. And it's been sealed off, or sealed off quite a long time ago to protect it. But researchers still go in periodically to get data. Okay, let's continue with the passé composé, a new form of it. So remember the passé composé, the passé is the past, and composé means it's composed of two words. Normally, and with the vast majority of words, we conjugate with avoir as the helping verb and the past participle. So we have a sentence like, il a parlé. However, sometimes we don't use avoir. Sometimes we use être plus the past participle. And that's a little tricky because we don't really have much like that in English. But you've got to be able to recognize it in French. And être is used with intransitive verbs of motion. And all three of those words are going to be important. Right now, let's emphasize that's for verbs of motion. So it's about moving from one place to another, more or less. So let's take, for example, the verb aller, to go. And the past participle of aller is aller, but it's conjugated with être, so it's je suis allé, which means I went or I have gone. Now it looks like it says I am gone, but that's not what it means. It means I went or I have gone. Tu es allé, you went. Il est allé, he went. Elle est allée, she went. Nous sommes allés, we went. Now notice how with elle est allée we put an E there, and nous sommes allés we put an S there, because it acts like an adjective, and with être you make the adjectives that follow être agree with the subject and verbs and number. So if the nous, the we, were all females, we'd have nous sommes allés with a E with the accent and then an ES at the end instead of just an S. Vous êtes allés or vous êtes allés. If vous is vous, the you formal singular, there'd be no S at allés, but if the vous is a vous plural, there would be an S. And then the third person plural, ils sont allés and elles sont allées. Masculine, just add the S. Feminine, add the ES. Okay, so what do we mean by intransitive verbs of motion? We need to understand clearly the difference between a transitive and an intransitive verb. This is just something that when we speak English, we automatically figure out whether a verb's transitive or intransitive. We don't even know these words. So a transitive verb is where something receives the action. There's a direct object. There's no need for a preposition. For example, j'embrasse ma femme. Embrasser means to kiss. It has a little passion with it. You can see the word bras in there, which means arm. So it means to, or embrace. It means to take someone in your arms to kiss them. That's different than just a little peck on the cheek type kiss, which is called a bisou. So j'embrasse ma femme is I kiss my wife. A femme is the word for either woman or wife. When it's got the possessive pronoun, that means it's going to be one's spouse. I kiss my wife. See, there's no preposition there. I don't kiss at my wife or to my wife or something like that. I kiss my wife. It's a direct action. So that's a transitive verb. Intransitive nothing receives the action. There's no direct object. So if that sentence were to continue, quand je rentre, when I return, there's no, when I return, that means I'm coming back. I'm not like returning books to the library. That would be a transitive verb, but when I say I return, or if I return to the house, or I return to kiss my wife, there's always this prepositional phrase before the noun, so that's an intransitive verb. So here's a transitive verb because there's it can take a direct object. This is an intransitive verb because it can't take a direct object. Now, if I were to talk about I return the books to the library, that would be a transitive use of return. But it's got a real different meaning from I return to the house and I return the books. That's a very different sense to the word return. So, looking at the two different past tenses together, here we had them in present tense. J'ai embrassé ma femme quand je suis rentré. I kissed my wife when I returned. Here we've translated I kissed. We used, they're both passé composé. The helping verb here is avoir, because this is a transitive verb. Je suis rentré, we used suis as the être as a helping verb, because this is an intransitive verb of motion. Now, we could also change this to a question. As-tu embrassé ton mari? Have you kissed, or did you kiss your husband quand tu es rentré, when you returned? So here, this is the avoir, because this is a transitive verb. Did you kiss your husband when you returned? And we used être here as the helping verb because it's an intransitive verb of motion. Now notice, so ton mari is feminine, ton mari is masculine, so it's as-tu embrassé ton mari quand tu es rentré, and tu here is feminine, and so it gets the E there after the accent mark in the past participle. Now here's a little way of explaining, of remembering what the intransitive verbs of motion are. There's a limited number of intransitive verbs of motion, and it's limited to what's put on this illustration. And so these are all pretty common verbs. So I would say make a flashcard for each of these, memorize them, remember that they're in the house of être, and that they're conjugated with être. So they're basically all things that you can do coming and going from a house if you use your imagination. So what do we have? We have rentrer and retourner, to return, partir, passer, somebody in the house, to pass, entrer, to enter, sortir, to exit, to leave. You can go upstairs and downstairs, descendre and monter. You can arriver at a house, arrive, like the mail arrives or a person can arrive. Two of the most common verbs of motion are aller and venir, to go and to come. Now there's a few others that you have to stretch your imagination a little bit. Devenir, and here we have a child playing with toys, becoming a serious student, working at a desk. Devenir is conjugated with être, and that's mainly because devenir is a form of venir, and down here venir, to come, is devenir, to become is conjugated like devenir. So there's not a physical motion there, but it's based on a physical motion verb. Here we've got rester, to rest or to remain or to stay. It's not rest like getting rest, but it's more of to remain or to stay. It's a verb of being. You can see este in there, which is a lot like être, especially if you realize that circumflex used to be an S. So reste is a verb of being. Décéder and mourir both mean to die. You can die in a house, and it's conjugated with être. And the same thing with naître. That's conjugated with être. Also, naître means to be born. That's a stork bringing a baby. That's how they do it in France. And here, tomber is also conjugated with être, and that we can do that from a house too. And we've got some people down here doing an intervention, intervenir, to intervene. Since that's a venir word, to come, that's conjugated with être also. In fact, all words based on venir or passer or partir will be conjugated with être. All verbs that use these roots. So here are some exercises. Do all 5, write them all out, and then compare them on the next video and see what you get.